Welcome to the RTS podcast, where we explore real stories of values, faith, culture, and impact. Today, I'm excited to have Bradley Matawi with us. Bradley is the founder of Locker 71, a digital communications service provider for small businesses and beyond. Bradley does a bit of everything from videography, photography, to Google Ads, anything digital. And so he's your guy when it comes to digital services there. In this episode, we'll talk about Bradley's journey and how his work and creating opportunities and impact in this business world and beyond. Brad, good to have you on here, Us.
Thanks for having me on, Oz.
We
Appreciate
are
being here.
finally here.
Yeah, finally.
Us, we caught up before, and it was good to have that catch up. I think since meeting you over the last, we should only like
3 months.
yeah,
Yeah.
two. I'm sure it's less, but 2 months. Being able to learn more about yourself, and it was
Mhm.
funny how we were mentioning, you were saying before, when people say who's Brad, but when you say who's Locker 71, everyone knows you, and so I guess I want to start with there.
Yeah.
Who is Brad, but who is Locker 71? Because Locker 71 is out of a name. So yeah,
Yeah.
maybe we start with there, bro.
So I guess with Locker 71, that was birthed from the e-commerce website that I had. Um, as I should say, actually, the family business had,
Yeah.
and I was just directing operations and basically one man band. That was based out of a locker at All Secure Storage, and the number was Locker 71.
Oh,
So I hold
good
that
name.
place quite dear to me. Just being obviously it's the first venture in terms of, I guess, being the big bad world, especially in business.
Mm.
And then from there, Lock 71 was born. So pretty much, that's where
Wait.
everything started.
So obviously before Locker 71
Yeah.
is Brad.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, tell us a bit about your upbringing, bro. And I understand you're a father.
Yeah.
And you got two children and one little one.
Yeah.
So yeah, keen to learn more about yourself, bro. Who's
Yeah.
Brad?
Sweet. So I'll basically who's Brad? It's a good question because it's trying to split myself away from Locker 71 because it's been like that for so long. But myself, I'm Samoan descent. Mum and dad grew up in Onehunga, one sibling, so
One,
very, very
two, three, one,
yeah,
two.
3-on-2. Pretty, and that's an interesting place now. Obviously, it's demographics changed around the area,
Yeah.
but it's I'll always be home, even though I live in Manga East now. So
Family home still there though.
yeah, family home's still there. So
Yeah.
I always visit mum and dad once
Yeah.
a week with baby and
Yeah.
the kids, just to still keep that connection going. But yeah, so grew up in Onehunga for about 23, 24 plus years of my life. Um, Actually, yeah, no, most of my life, yeah. So all my life basically been in Onehunga, and Mount Eden during my high school years. Can dive into that more later on. So that and then basically mum, dad, and only one little brother. So we're a small family, and my late grandmother as well. So that's that. Yeah. So
Also, bro, and I guess yeah, let's dig into the schooling you went to in Mount Eden because I understand you went to a special school.
yeah, well, our little sister school was down the road. So you beat it.
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
So yeah, grammar was the top of Mountain Road. Some
But we
God
were the
members,
bridge though.
and the government did. So so then
That's a good few the answer.
but yeah, so attended grammar from 2010 till 2014. Yeah, and it was an awesome journey. I'm sure just as much it would be an awesome journey at St. Peter's. I guess both two well-established schools with rich history against each other as well. That's funny enough. I guess as adults now we've come across and cross paths.
Yeah.
At school we cross paths through footy, and now we cross through business. So
Yeah.
yeah,
You know what's funny about your grandma story was because you were in zone or we were at the
that's
boarding house.
so what happened was we were out of zone.
Yeah.
My mum, God bless her, and she was just gunning to make sure that her boys got the best education they could.
Wow.
So my dad was, there as well. He was helping out, but mum really pushed pen to paper, finding out what's next. If we didn't get an outer zone, what would be the next step to get into grammar and get us what she saw as a very good education and value. That stemmed from previous uncles, her little brother actually going through grammar,
Mm.
and how he's come out and composed himself and everything. So they really looked at those values and we want our boys to be like that. Yeah, that's how it all happened. So we basically we're out of zone, kind of gutted because you got to have some pretty good marks to get in while you're outer zone. And then mum and dad came up with the plan of, look, it's gonna be tough,
Mm.
but we're gonna do this. They did was they got a one-bedroom apartment in Mount Eden,
Yeah.
and what we'll do
Yeah.
is during the week, because I was there first for about 3 years, we would stay there with my father, and would be there for, yeah, basically the whole week, and then the weekend we'll come back and spend it as a family. Um, and that
For the
was
whole schooling.
yeah, so that was pretty much, our schooling life. So from, yeah, 2010 to 2014, that's how it rolled.
Yeah.
Um, it was tough. Yeah, it was definitely tough. From a family dynamic standpoint, as being a parent and you know, having my own little family now,
Yeah.
they had that much drive and willpower to deliver us a quality education by doing those sacrifices. As an adult now, I'm like, how did you do that? But I'm just very, very grateful for the opportunity. So yeah,
Well, that's such a heartwarming story because you're probably one of many families that have done that. Because I know other grandma boys and students that like they relocated to that. It's so hard to be in zone as well. And man, that's all. Man,
yeah, definitely. So like being in zone, there was a big kind of I wouldn't say stigma, but just the thought that we were somewhat rich. Far from that, like my parents are very hard workers. My mum was with ASB for about 30 years. My old man, he's been in sales most of his career until he branched off and started his own thing. Um,
that's where your sales background comes.
yeah, so I mean, from young, my dad managed a few bars. The latest one that might be recognizable to everyone is the one in the Trident Tavern
Mm.
that's now been demolished for redevelopment in the area. Um, 40s bar at Monaco, just around the corner off Cavendish. Um, yeah, and then he was also pretty sure he was the national sales manager for the mill before they sold. Then from there, he birthed his own company, the Village Road, and so now he's in distribution for alcohols. That's um, that's that part. So yeah.
Oh, and so you did your schooling at grandma, and then so after school, what was that journey like? We was you know as a young male, the years of that era, right?
Mm,
After school was a pivotal moment
yeah,
to where you're gonna head the next for the
definitely.
rest of your life. So what was that like for you, and where did you end up?
Um, so I ended up at university, AUT, doing a communications course. I was going to major in journalism.
Mm.
However, I think at the time, what I actually needed was a gap year.
Yep.
So when I left, I thought I knew what I wanted to do. However, in the long run, I guess as I was going along the journey, it wasn't really kind of what I wanted to pursue and follow. Um, but yeah, just kind of winding a bit back, but just after leaving school, it was pretty daunting considering a lot of, obviously, my dad being quite successful in his own right, and then other family members around me being well established in their respective areas. And it was
Do you
kind
feel
of,
that pressure, like,
yeah, definitely,
because obviously education played an important part of the role. What was the expectation and the pressure
definitely.
that you feel like?
Because oh man, he's a hard but fair man. Now that I look at it from as a adult standpoint, very hard and fair. Mum too. And it was kind of like at the time I didn't, yes, ideally know how to deal with the pressure. Well, so-called pressure. What I thought was pressure then is not pressure now. Um, but yeah, I just kind of just trying to find my feet in this world. That was the big
Mm.
kind of try this, and I think that was the luxury for me. Like
That you
being
could
able to try these
mm,
things and still having my parents support me, and I found that as a big blessing
mm,
in terms of where I'm able to be at now. So shout out to mum and dad for
yeah,
holding it down, like it's like I said, we weren't a rich family, but they allowed me to pursue this in that sense. So it's all kind of intertwined to get me to where I am today.
yeah,
So
yeah. That's awesome,
yeah,
and as a Pacific, up and coming, male, and as an older brother,
yeah,
you can sometimes I can speak for myself as well as an older brother, kind of have sometimes feel the weight of the shoulders of the weight of the world on your shoulders. Um, and being able to have your own choice to do that, um, and with the blessing of your parents,
Yeah.
would be very helpful. And so, um, so gave uni a crack,
Yeah.
and then what happened from there?
So obviously giving uni a crack, I got to my final year. Um, and I actually just kind of, I guess, had a pivotal moment in my life where looked at, no disrespect, but I looked at my lecturer. That's what you look like in 30 years after pursuing this career. I don't really want to do that. Um,
What did it look like?
just ran down, lived off coffee. Like this is like we had an 8 a.m. lecture. He's already 6 coffees in. And he's got people, he's like, oh, during the break time, there's break times in between your like 2 hour classes. I was gonna go make another coffee. So I'm like, man, and he was just like,
Sponsored by Makuna.
legit, like, yeah, he could have been influencing this day and age with him, but yeah, just in his lifestyle, he kind of described, it was as a journalist, always chasing the next story, and being a lecturer, he was always having to have classes as well as pursue journalism. So it was kind of
You think being a journalist at the same time?
yeah. So he was it's quite well established, I think. So yeah, it's been a while now. Sorry. So, but overall, it was just like once I saw that, it was like, man, I can't do this. So I had to painstakingly make that admission to my parents, which made me feel like a pretty let down. Um, obviously everyone's excited. They know you're heading towards this goal of graduation. Your family's backed you this whole way, and then you kind of feel selfish for kind of thinking, man, I want to do this for the rest of my life, but this is what I've been doing for the last 3 years, 3, 4 years of my life. How do I come to tell these people that I love and supported me they want to do this? And so in saying that, it did take a bit of a toll mentally, but I guess it wasn't as bad when I kind of came out and did it. So from a mental aspect, it did play a lot. Obviously keeping everything in because you didn't want to start dropping things like, "Oh, hey, look, I don't want to go today." So you kind of just go, but you're just going through the motions, um, almost finding a purpose.
Mm.
From a young age, I guess I was like, yeah, just trying to find the actual purpose now. This is not it. What is your actual purpose? From there, followed a string of labor-intensive jobs,
As you do.
warehousing, devanning, roofing at one point. Shout out to Tim Smith and Oscar Smith. They helped me out. Boys, brothers, I guess. They were like, "Oh, if you want a job, jump on with us," and they took me on board for about 6 to 8 months. They really supported me. I was very lucky and fortunate to have them, but it really kind of showed me um, this is what your life is gonna be like. Like, with all respect to tradies, man, it's not an easy gig, especially the roofers.
Bro,
Um,
I know my brother-in-law's a roofer, and
yeah,
the standing sessions, bro. You
yeah,
can imagine him being outside right now.
do it. And it was funny because it was probably one of my heaviest points in life as well. And Tim, he can probably verify this. Or anyone that knows him, he's quite straightforward. Um, at one time I was up on the roof and I dented it, and he goes, "Oh man, like you just not," and I was like, "I can't," and he goes, "Well, that's what happens when you have just one thigh," and I was like, "Oh," and I looked down and it was just my leg, and I was like, so from there, like the banter on site was great. Obviously being with the boys, but it was just kind of the work ethic I picked up from Tim as well.
Yeah. Bro,
He's
shout out to tradies, bro.
yeah, so
Yeah, up at 6 even.
this dude he'd be up outside my house, and if I wasn't up outside, he'll come, like, "Hey, well, what's going on?" So yeah, and then it would be like we wouldn't get lunch until 3, and then we'd finish work at like 7, and daylight saving was like 8. So like it was just like work ethic was there. Like this is how you're gonna have to work if you don't find out what you want to do. Um, but yeah, that was that.
Did that help you? Like, I think I've had my season where I've done humble jobs, right?
Yeah,
And it's no discredit to people that are in these roles, right? Because that's what puts bread on the table.
Yeah.
And I remember doing a job. Um, we were looking after these. Are they called IMC tanks or something like that?
Mm,
They were cubic meter tanks, and it's where you pour in liquid.
mm,
So we had to clean them, and like there's a rinse and repeat. So the water blaster's out, you're getting wet, and then you got the hot air gun, peeling off the labels, and you're scraping it. So you got all the kind of elements there,
yeah.
and then you're moving metal around, and it's just like you're getting um, you think it grazes everywhere, and I think that was the job where I realized that my moisturized hands weren't ready.
But it's funny you touch on this because, like, um, oh, a couple of me and other boys were actually doing trades at the time in our media group. And we always kind of had a competition on who had more callus on their hands. Like, if you go shake a tradie's hand, they're quite
Of course.
rough and firm and just, real manly hands. Not to say office hands aren't, but when they touch your hands, you're like, you got some typing hands. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, I don't either. But yeah, no, that was our competition during that time period. It was like, who's got more callus on their hands? And
Right, but there's nothing wrong with
there's nothing
moisturizing,
wrong
right?
with it, yeah.
Ever since I met my wife, hey, like I learned about self-care. Yeah. A lot of times, women just make men grow up and do things that they didn't do. So, um, shout out to my wife. Shout out to my wife. Bro, I want to touch on journalism.
Yeah.
Like, what interests you around that type? Because
Mm,
obviously you're a bit of a storyteller now with what you're
yeah.
doing with Locker 71. But what made you interested in that career? Because I guess
Mm,
you're still doing that in a different,
actually,
yeah,
yeah.
different capacity.
So with journalism, to me personally, it was about finding out the truth, getting to the root of it, and being able to not enhance that story, but deliver that story to audiences that would
Mm,
pay attention to it. From young, I was always intrigued by Instagram and how it worked, becoming popular. So being able to like create stories and put it through Instagram, back then anyone that posted on Instagram was cool. And sometimes people were like, oh, should I
was
post
this
this?
before stories?
Yes, this was before. This was when like the logo was like in 2014. Like the logo was teams weren't even around. Like so it's been around, but yeah. So like that's where like kind of the digital media, the journalism, storytelling kind of started back in 2014. Back when we were in high school, basically. Yeah. So our
Mm,
last year of high school, that's when like social media was it's blowing up
yeah.
kind of, and people were um able to make a living and just connect with mass audiences without having to actually go out and physically, meet them and touch them. So it was an interesting time, I reckon, for internet and social media in general. So
Me.
yeah,
Well, you talk about the truth, right? And like journalism as a vehicle to share the truth.
yeah,
Nowadays, you don't know what the truth is, right?
definitely.
And so, and we had Martin on yesterday, and he was saying that they do a bit of current affairs on
Mm,
their reporting in for Blue Wave, and one of the things is about just sharing information, but
mm,
letting your audience decide what
mm.
is the truth to them. And so, like when you talk about truth, how do you define truth in the sense of the information you're receiving? Like, how do you do your due diligence on that part?
Um, I try and stem away from trying to discover truth instantly.
Mm,
You have to do your due diligence of research on both backgrounds. Um, Also, like it's these days, facts and opinions can be very misunderstood. Some people take opinion as a fact, an
mm,
opinion or a fact as an opinion. So, the way that's communicated these days is that's where communication interests me, is because delivery of message and receiving it is two very big things. And what you don't want to do is have that misunderstood. And in terms of that, finding out the truth, that's where I guess it's up to the individual and
mm,
how hard they want to look. Are you open to listening to the other side's story, and then finding out, what's the mitigation? What is your, what's you obviously, everyone's research and findings will be different. But yeah, and I guess how they take that truth is up to them. So yeah,
interesting. Yeah, yeah. I think it's always important, looking at all sides of the dice, right? And so, if your media platforms are just one-sided,
yeah,
look on Al Jazeera, look on like the worldwide
yeah,
news, and do your own research. And I think that's an important part, especially for now that people can create a platform. Um, and you have your responsible for what you're sharing, and so making sure that what you're sharing has its due diligence is really important. Bro, I just wanted to come back on so you go from being a roofer,
Yeah.
and then you realize that you have soft moisturized hands, right? What was that transition like? Did you find yourself working these jobs? Was it at that point you realized your purpose? Or like what was the turning point? You're like, man, I'm gonna start my business.
So from that point, basically, it was after I finished up at roofing. Unfortunately, the boss at the time, um, had to let us go. Basically, there was no work coming in from what his reports was. And unfortunately, we were just kind of like left there to figure out life from then on. Um, and as most people in business do, they have mentors. I was lucky enough to have my old man.
Mm.
He threw the line out a couple of times. What do you think about? Uh,
This is when he was running his business.
yeah, so this is while he's being a distributor. So he like, hey, what do you think about this e-commerce stuff? And I knew nothing of it. Absolutely had zero idea, zero knowledge.
Was he?
Um, there was a very kind of like, okay, like, oh, like, what are you suggesting? And basically from there, that was born. In 2018, 2019, around that time period. And yeah, from there, the rest was history. It was kind of like just, I was lucky to have a mentor there, so to say. Someone there to give me a bit of guidance. I understand that's not the luxury for a lot of people, but that was, if I'm being honestly truthful, that was my experience. It's a turning point.
Mm.
Yeah.
And as you were sharing that, I felt like it was like one door closed and then naturally another door opened.
Yeah.
And so another door opened to something that you didn't know anything about. What was that like? You're getting into the e-commerce game because
It was interesting at a time because not many people were doing it in New Zealand as such. Because like my idols were all in America. People that I was starting to learn off, follow their journeys, do their courses, read their books. I was, people that actually know me. I was never much of a reader growing up, but it was something that actually drew my interest. So I was like, "Wow, research. I want to develop this." Um, Even in Australia, Sabri Subi, he was quite the market at the time. Obviously, Gary V, like he was actually Gary V kind of resonated with me a lot more because how his old man had a wine shop. He came in with his marketing background and stuff, and he was like, "How do I develop? How do I upsell? How do I cross sell?" So a lot of these terminologies that I actually never heard of before, started to develop from that self development. Getting out there and learning. So I know Gary V will never see this, but shout out to Gary V.
I was gonna say, are you the Starmon Gary V? We got a similar background.
Oh man, I wish our bank accounts the same. So, yeah. So Gary V, big inspiration, and Sabri Subi as well. So yeah, that's that. So yeah.
So education's been. It sounds like over your journey, like um, you've been a problem solver. There's something that's innate within you. And I guess, how does someone go about learning how to do e-commerce, bro? Did you literally just go on Shopify, or were you YouTube it,
Um,
or
yeah. So we weren't on Shopify, so it was more of a manual handling process through WordPress.
damn,
From there to like develop knowledge around coding,
yeah,
how to add in plugins, how to, not make your website heavy dependent, make it still light and operating, customer experience, landing pages, call to action, sales funnels. This all happened within 6 months. What I want to actually kind of be transparent about was in that 6 months of knowledge, learning, and building, after launching within that 6 months, no sales actually came through. One or two, maybe, so one or two. But in that time period where there was no sales coming through, I was learning.
during the
Having
six
to,
months or
yeah,
after this?
during that 6 months. So, literally, what happened was, um, got everything sorted. The licenses with council, that was all done within 3 months because it's a bit of a process, and then basically kicked off. At the end of 2018, the November, December 2018. That's when that all launched. That 6 month period between then 2019, mid 2019, there was few and far. few sales that came in, mainly friends and family. I guess
So it starts, bro.
yes, and they're like, "Oh, buy his wine," and so thank you to all my family and friends
Yeah.
that did that at the start. But then after that was like, "Oh, cool, there's tools like MailChimp, your email marketing." So there was all these top-up things that you had to
Mm.
be knowledgeable about or have at least a basic knowledge and understanding around. Then from there, it built on to, ad campaigns, not just, boosting their posts. You had to actually, learn what your forecasting was, your what do you call it? Your profit margins. That's a big one. Profit margins. If you get in business, understand your profit margins. Hourlies and with no profits on top is a very tough, way to survive, I guess, and sustain your business. That yeah, and there was all sorts of other these components that came together. So basically by mid 2019, things started to pick up. Um, and just kind of just ran with it. From then on out. COVID all did good, bring in some pretty good figures that we were happy with at the time, which kind of from there just blew my eyes out in terms of that this e-commerce stuff is actually tangible. It was definitely delayed gratification, but we got this. Yeah.
I want to touch on like email marketing because
Yeah.
in my experience of commerce and learning from others in the
Mm.
space, email marketing is one of the biggest tools and gives the most ROI regards to performance and sales. And so you've learning about email marketing. What was that like for you? Like, did you legit write each email and how many emails? Because you guys were selling to wholesalers, or other
So
retail
we're
people.
so we're at the start, we started just direct general to
Yeah.
to public. Um, so basically that, yes. Before ChatGPT came up,
Oh, mate.
it was
How you got it, mate?
yeah, man, there was some tough times because the creativity around it, obviously tailoring emails to seasons, and on top of that, you had to have your customer journey sorted.
Yeah.
I didn't have my customer journey sorted until about like a year and a half into
Yeah,
my
because you wouldn't have known your customer, right?
exactly. So at the time, it was just about communicating.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much about customer experience. So that's another thing I developed along the way, your customer experience, which is very important. Um, yeah, so literally everything was wrote by me, and then also the images that were created to use inside the emails was done by me using Photoshop. So it was a bit of, I had to run around, do this, do that, but it was all beneficial.
That's me, bro. And it's funny how this is pre ChatGPT and maybe was Canva out by then?
Nah, Canva wasn't. So
That is where
so that is where that Photoshop, like I had no knowledge, no
yeah.
nothing, and it was like
Photoshop's good, but it's not as user friendly as Canva.
nah. Canva's, I guess, like the word art of Photoshop,
Yeah.
but it for the functionality and what it provides, it's like if you're an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
you've got no budget for someone to do design,
Yeah.
stuff like that, use Canva.
Yeah.
Learn how to animate, learn how to um where to into your subjects and stuff like that. So just there's so much knowledge out there through YouTube. Um, you can literally pick up a skill set now through YouTube, like using Canva to the most ultimate capabilities. I myself had like limited resources on YouTube at the time around what I needed to create using Photoshop. So I'm like a grandpa compared to
Yeah.
some people can come through and do what I need, use Canva and do what I need to do. What would have taken me 3 hours back then
Yeah.
within like 10 minutes now. So it's just unbelievable, Canva.
You talk about like didn't know your customer, so
Yeah.
your email campaigns were more so directly about communicating. So like
Yeah.
with with guys who are selling wines at the time, only wines.
What a whole range wines, beers, and spirits.
Yeah. So like given any product, but in this situation, you guys were selling wines, alcohol.
Yeah.
How do you communicate to your customers? Like, you communicate value? Because you like
Yeah.
when you're like, we live in a day and age where everyone's trying to sell you stuff.
Yes.
So, how do you communicate and
So
build loyalty
that
for
was a
your
big one. That was a big one
mm,
actually, and glad you touched on that because customer retention is ultimately your best thing. At the time, I only understood about this initial sale, not about that's where their customer experience,
The life. These are
life, yeah,
what's
lifespan
the
on
yeah?
customers.
Emoji uses the abbreviation for is that there's a certain term for the customer lifeline, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Need to read up on it, but yeah, sorry.
Yes.
See,
What was the question?
going back to like customer retention
Yeah.
and like beyond the purchase, like it's not just about
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
them
So customer
purchasing.
loyalty and
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
that. What I understood was at the time was obviously the initial sale. Great for me. However, in the long run, what, like you said, what value does your service or company provide that differentiates you from competitors? At the time, I had little to zero knowledge about that because to me it was just like so long as the sales coming in, that's all that mattered. But then when the gets 2 3 months down the track and they haven't reordered again, I was wondering, oh, what's going on? What's doing? So obviously, um, again, I had my mentor, my dad, to like lean on, ask him a few questions, and he proposed like loyalty memberships and how do we go about that? Um, what are our competitors doing? Look, at the end of the day, like we were never operating at the capacity that like Glengarry's they're operating on their online, but it was kind of like, oh, what's and then that's when kind of you understood your customers a bit more. So your wine drinkers, they will resonate more with Glengarry's. So what are Glengarry doing with their wine selection? Cool. Beers, at the time, competitors would have is yeah, just competitor analysis. That was a real big thing. You had to really knuckle down, find out what your competitors were doing, what they were offering, and then just see if you could do something, tweak it that it suits you and benefits clients at the same time. I think that's the ultimate thing here is when you provide a service, what value does it bring to your customer, shop with you, to buy from you, your service? What differentiates you? Is it the customer experience? It's the value that they get out of it. There's a lot of variety. There's a lot of things to look at and angles to look at it. So ultimately, that yeah, customer value. What? Yeah, that's basically it.
That's so good, bro. And I want to bring it back to Alex Hormozy, where he has like two books,
Yeah.
million or thousand. He sells two books, but for like $1 on Amazon.
Mm,
He's providing so much value that his customers go through all of his lead magnets and go learn more about it, and they build trust, right? And that's where that loyalty comes on. And if
definitely,
word of mouth goes a long way
definitely.
in regards to the customer journey, and I've been lucky in business to create those relationships and have those loyal customers. I wanted to touch on point of difference.
Yep.
I recently saw on Auckland FC. They're unbeaten at the moment.
Yep.
And then what they've done at Mount Smart is to create more of a family
Mm.
affair at the games. Is they're making a man-made beach
Oh, wow.
at the Mount Smart Stadium, and
Yeah.
I think those are sort of the innovative thinking
Yeah.
things that are really important about business and what makes you different. 'Cause you think about Mount Smart and like the numbers that they bring into WAS, the game experience is unreal. Auckland FC and then versus Moana, where they had hardly any numbers, but it's really dependent on how what's your unique value proposition, eh?
Mm.
And so that's gold there, bro. Hey, I wanted to um so you go into the e-commerce space,
Yep.
and then you venture off into Locker 71.
Yeah.
So what was that transition like, bro? And did
Um,
it
again,
stick with you?
it was sorry. Again, it wasn't easy. It's another instance where, um, I'd have to turn around and be like, "Look, this I'm changing career paths again."
Mhm.
Um, there was a lot of speculation around, like I guess, close friends and family on why in terms I did that. But the ultimate decision here and reason why I changed career paths was it's a bit to do with legacy towards the end.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, what would you want to be remembered? Do I want to be remembered as the guy who sold alcohol online my whole life? Or would I want to be known as a person that could deliver change in a way that was positive and it benefited the masses? So that's the journey that Locker 71 is taking on at the moment. And myself personally, is how do I develop not only the business, but myself? How do I be the best dad while in business that I can be, still being present for the kids. My partner, first of all, like, still being there for my partner and being a partner, not just being, this guy who's doing business, It's at the end of the day, the people that know me well and best are my family, my partner, and now the kids, because they're starting to see me, the oldest one especially, she's got me almost down to a T, which is scary because
Mm.
she's heading into her teenage years. So I'm like, those movies of how kids can push their parents' arm. I'm
Yeah.
like, man, this is happening to me in real life. But yeah. So that transition was quite good. But it was I don't know. I don't want to say sad, but it was basically a big purpose of the e-commerce was to also be rich in time to look after my grandmother. So um, he was unfortunately diagnosed with cancer, which then led to us looking after her. My immediate family, my dad, my mum, and my brother. That was us. We were like rotated schedule to look after the old lady. Um, and she, during closer towards the end of her time, she said, "Look, whatever you want to do in life, once I'm gone, do it." So that was like my
Wow.
kind of like, as opposed to before, it was hard because I had to tell a lot of my nan, my mum, my dad, I'm not finishing uni, gotta do this.
Mm.
Now it's like I've been given permission by an elder to pursue whatever I want to pursue in life, whether it's completely far left field or completely right field. There's no, you know,
Mm.
um, yeah, being able to, it just kind of felt like cool. This is my opportunity to pursue something, which was Locker 71. I always had it at the back of my mind while I was with doing the e-commerce. I had a lot of people reaching out, "Hey man, we'll do your marketing suite. Monthly fees $8,500." And it's like, I'll just keep doing it myself,
Mm.
So that's where the birth of Locker 71 and developing. If I had an e-commerce platform and if I had a um, marketing, digital marketing communication team, and had a tech company. So those are the three components I thought I want to pursue that later on in life. So obviously, tech companies not in the frame right now, but um, communication and digital marketing is where I'm at. So yeah, that's where it all kind of developed, and obviously with the skill set that was
Mm.
learned through the e-commerce platform and refining those skills, yeah, I was able to venture off and find clients and just pursue that avenue. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
been it.
it's also awesome story, and it takes a lot for a family to come together and being able to look
Yeah,
after Nana. And
yeah,
that's something that I really admire about your journey, bro. How it's always been about your family, and I wanted to come back about the role of your family.
mm.
Kind of touched on it, but how has the role of your family and the values that have been installed in you been a part of your journey and how it's influenced your decisions?
Yeah. I guess like any other Pacific Islander family is a very big part. Pacifica and Maori, I should say. Sorry. Um, and it didn't like as I kind of discussed before that their outlook on whatever I did was very heavy. So, yeah, their influence was heavy as well. The values that they installed, obviously, just um doing the best that you can in whatever you do, giving 100%. Being honest in what you do. If you're gonna do it half-assed, don't do it at all. You're better to come out and say, "I can't do it," than say, "I can do it," and then, um, yeah, do it half-assed,
Mm.
basically. And yeah, I guess obviously looking at my mum and how her and my dad had that drive to get us into grammar, kinda like, and then mixing that with obviously working labor jobs as well. I'd say they're my extended family, Tim and Oscar. Um, it just kind of just showed like, man, this is what it really takes to kind of do at least something in life before you even make it somewhere. So it was, yeah, a lot of their values and their work ethics really influenced me a lot. So yeah,
Have there been moments in the journey where those sort of things have reminded you to push through? Like, do you
yeah,
like?
definitely. Um, by being completely honest, I think my grandmother's journey as well, because she was the last living grandparent, but then also only grandparent I kind of like live with. My dad's parents are in Samoa, and now peacefully buried there. So never really got to spend too much time with them as I did with my grandmother. But yeah, obviously it's like that wave of workers that came over. I think she came over in early 1960s before the independence. Those factory work, just complete. And I will never actually understand how hard she worked. But when you think about working conditions, living conditions, I think she brought over most of her siblings, her cousins. So it's
So she
like,
was the first one.
yeah, so she kind of basically set it up. There was a family member here before her. That was she broke off with my granddad, and they set up life in Onehunga. So a lot of my family members have come through my nan. But it was from what I could pick up off her was she was able to work a job like full 12, 14-hour shift, come home, cook food, do everyone's washing by hand, and get up and do it again for X amount of years, as well as the kids, my mum, my uncles. So it's like I got really nothing to complain about. Like that's some hard work. And
So true.
so yeah, even like just working conditions back then very different to what we're entitled to now. So it's like um I guess people coming over with limited English as well. Communication back then wasn't really a big thing. So yeah, hard from my family's hard work that they've done over the years has definitely influenced and made me realize at times where it may be hard, what I think is hard, it's actually not.
Mm.
I'm and it feels like I have this luxury of feeling hard when it's not, which is kind of hard to describe because it's like, and like I can see why my that older generation is very hard headed, and then my mum and dad, they're a bit, lenient, and then you
Mhm.
get to our generation where we're like a bit more relaxed, and then, as it gets progresses down, you're like, tip my iPad on.
It's like very iPad generation.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, definitely. Family work ethics has definitely influenced decision making in
Yeah.
terms of whether life's hard or not.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah,
true. And it comes down to perspective, eh? Like
definitely.
you just reminded me of my grandparents and their journey.
Hmm.
And I was speaking about this in one of the podcasts I've been about, or Buzzy's podcast, where the dear sacrifice,
Mm.
grandparents sacrifice, and we're really the fruits of their labor. And like you only kind of realize like that when you're a parent,
Yeah.
um, and you realize, man, you want to give your kids everything that they didn't have, and it makes me emotional. Reflecting upon that, and perspective is real key on that. And reminds me of a story of my Tongan grandparents where they lived in Mangere, but they used to work in Newmarket and they used to bike
Yeah.
all the way to Newmarket for work. That's perspective.
Mhm.
Bike, walk to work, and everything. And so, and here we are complaining about how late the Uber driver is, or how late the Uber Eats
What do
is.
you mean my Uber Eats is taking under 5 minutes?
Yeah, and so I
Yeah.
think times like that, gratitude, perspective is key, and makes life seem, yeah, mm, reminds you that life's okay. I
Yeah.
think it's important for our listeners to hear is that if you're having a crap day, or like, and you'll have those crap days, is that have some perspective,
Yeah.
take it a day by day, bro. And
Definitely.
bro, I wanted to, as we draw near to the end of the potty, bro, I've got
Well,
some questions that I think that would be good value to our listeners. What advice would you give to someone looking at starting their own business? Um,
um, I'm not being paid for this, but if you are starting a business and need funding, get it Ramiro. He's doing a great job at what he's doing, and he's got a surplus amount of sorry, not surplus. He's got a wealth of authority. This covers English as well. Nah. But yeah, no, he's got a wealth of experience in the industry that he's specialized in. So again, just wanted to declare I'm not being paid for this, but definitely hit up Ramiro. Also, if you want to start a business, back yourself.
Yep.
Back yourself. Because in the moments where you may seem crazy in what you want to develop, what you want to produce, what you want to deliver, people look at you, "Why would you do this? You got this." But then it's like that at an unknown, if I don't do this, but this have and as we get older, like, we're nearing 30 now, I've had that, mindset, "If I don't do this, what are the consequences? If I don't pursue this, that's gonna happen." So, yeah, just back yourself. Pretty sure it was you. Would you come up with the analogy, pull the trigger? Oh, yeah, so that's been another one I can't remember where I've heard that one from, but it stuck with me in my head. Um, just constantly pulling the trigger and then just hoping for the best on the other side. I'm not hoping for the you plan for it and stuff, but it's just like the unknown, you know? So, yeah, just be ready to do that. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good, bro. I think that's really important. Like
Mm.
it's like you know, you're worse off not doing the thing and not
Mm.
taking the risk than if you were to actually take the risk and fall. You can always learn from it. And I think um I always used to say this when I was an employee for another organization. You got to have thick skin to be an entrepreneur.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Probably another thing in connection with that is, be ready to be a loser.
yeah,
Because you have to lose to learn.
mm,
I think that concept around, like, if you lose, that's it, it's game over. Entrepreneurship is about, you know, as cliche as it is, you get hurt, you get knocked down, it's about how many times you get up. How much are you willing to sacrifice? How much are you willing to have delayed gratification? Because unless you have a massive, venture capital that's with you, nothing really happens overnight unless you come up with the newest, latest thing. But yeah, back yourself. Just, yeah, also, if you advice, don't listen to people that are around you because they're most likely not having the same vision that's aligned with what you're doing. Align yourself. That networking, your
you
network
were.
is your net worth than what you say. Definitely, 100%. Um, yeah, just those things. So I know it was meant to be one thing, but I was like, man, it just starts like trickling into numerous things.
It's good, bro. I wanted to touch on the delayed gratification
Yeah.
because some as a business owner, and I'm facing that now. Like, you can be so used to being as an employee, you know you're going to get paid because this is in your contract unless something happens. But as a entrepreneur, like cash flows here and there, up and down, up
Yep.
and down, and sometimes you have to, in good faith, deliver work, and that comes down to relationships. And I guess when you're working in business, you kind of have to decipher, um, if I'm gonna do this, I wouldn't say for free, but like if I'm gonna invest my time and my value here
Mm,
for this, or maybe for like not getting paid,
mm,
you got to decipher whether that's worth it or not. And so I guess what I wanted to ask you is like, how do you kind of manage the delayed gratification and working with other businesses and clients
mm.
versus actually, oh, I got to put bread on the table.
Balance.
Yeah,
Find balance. Understand forecasting.
yeah,
If you can have a client that then is paying a generous amount that can offset maybe something that you can provide for free, find that balance.
mm,
Just do it. Done that multiple times to because sometimes the value that you're providing for free that you get out of it is far more worth than the dollar values that you can put on the table. But again, you gotta be strategical, you gotta plan and find that balance. And if you can do it, I wouldn't advise anyone who's starting out a business to purely just go and do free work all the
mm,
time because again, you gotta put food on the table. But where you can leverage balance.
yeah. It's also having instinct, because I've been listening to 50 Cent's book, Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter, and I'm actually on the chapter where like he talks about that leveraging of he's talking about one of his TV gigs, and because he's quite big on TV now.
Yeah.
I never knew that. Like he's done the rapping, he's done the movies, but now he's dabbling in TV. And he talked about one of his first TV series around getting paid 18K per episode, which is
Mm,
chump change for his status. But now I think TV brand or Starlight or something like that, they're paying him 150 million
mm,
per season. But that all started with him, taking wouldn't say taking the losses, understanding the value and the opportunity, and he saw that after the first season, boom. 150
I
a
think
series.
sorry, have we got time?
You know, you're good.
Just with a lot of people that do jump into entrepreneurship, start out, as most people do, you like you said, with 50, you took that, initial 18, 16K, like, that was for, thinking now where he's at now. You have to build that, portfolio up again. Obviously, when you leave something that's well, established, you gotta go build it yourself now. Just because 'cause you're associated with certain things, maybe they'll
Mm,
you know, that's gone now. It's about you and your brand. It's like, how do you build that, to get those dollars? And I think a lot of things when people think is when you jump a lot of people that aren't in entrepreneurship start to think that Ramirez entrepreneur, he's got it sorted. He's got money flying, and that's my nan's concept was that was like entrepreneur, you got money, but it's like, no, I'm like grinding to make money and yeah, that delayed gratification, gotta be willing to sacrifice, to reinvest in not only yourself but the business to grow. So
I think to touch on that also before we get into the last question is delayed gratification is also creating leverage for yourself.
oh yeah.
Leverage to be able, like you said, 50 Cent, he didn't have any leverage in the TV game, but he saw an opportunity and backed himself. One of the things that you mentioned, right? And he saw an opportunity, but through him getting paid less and delivering a TV series that became one of the highest viewed TV series in that brand. Now he's getting bankrolled, but he was only able to do that by getting paid less. Then he had that leverage to actually um, leverage better contract deals. And so I think that's really important for business owners starting off is like sometimes have that balance of paid clients to put food on the table, but also leverage off and the value you're going to get from another client who may give you a mean review, um, word of mouth, because word of mouth is a powerful tool to get you business. So I think I guess there's no right formula or recipe, right?
Mm,
It's just finding that balance, but making sure that you're getting bread on the table, um, and understanding the value you're gonna get, so you can create that leverage
yeah.
to create more business, bro. And that's gold, bro. That's gold. Hey, bro. Lastly, I wanted to come back to the kind of deeper questions, and usually how I end the podcast is I ask this question. So, what's looking back? What's one thing you wish you knew when you started your career?
Don't stress. Don't stress. Um, don't stress. Enjoy your loved ones while they're around you. Never know when your number's called. You don't be stressing about work. Once the kids grow up,
Mm,
it's your parents, siblings, um, yeah, your partner. There's so much that I've potentially lost out on due to stress. Um, but now I'm grateful with my partnership. Coming with a different vision of life, and which has enabled me to start changing. It hasn't been overnight. It hasn't been easy, but you just everyone's like, "Why are you stressing? Why are you stressed?" But it was, and to me, it was kind of like I perceived it in a different way. But when I understood how she meant it, and actually, no, don't stress, be open, open up,
mm,
talk, enjoy time with loved ones. You never know.
mm. Yeah, that's good, folks. So good. Don't stress. We have to, yeah, comes back to perspective, like, and at the end of the day, there's worse things happening across the earth. And as long as you have food on the table and a roof over your head, and your kids are fed, that's wealth to me, Bro, lastly, man, what's a legacy do you want to leave, or to flip that question, if you were to leave this earth, what do you want to leave behind?
Oh, just my loved ones being in a better place.
Mm,
So that's through my service directly to them. Yeah, just how that affects them, where they're placed in life. Yeah, so ideally, I've had the conversation a couple times with my partner. If I was to leave tomorrow, X, Y, and Z was in place for kids, for my father, my dad, my brother, her. But yeah, that's for everyone. Yeah.
awesome, bro. Well, that's all we had time for today. But man, Brad, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Locker 71. Now we know who Brad is. I wish you all the well with your business endeavors and looking forward to collaborating more.
Thank you very much. Thanks for
There
having me on.
is. There is the man himself.